Cracked a few jokes about being a fat guy with a camera running after Mo Salah. That was Robbie Ryan. He was up for an Oscar this year. He was like, okay, so they've basically told me I've got to get rid of one of you. And I just went, I have quit my job. I'm staying here whether they pay me or not. I'm not going anywhere. I love music videos. You know, they're incredible. In music videos, as long as they look great, most of the time the artist is going to be happy.
Yeah.
But in a commercial, you have to be really, really good at your job. In so many different ways, not just technically, but politically and socially. And that was for Cartier shoot that we did. In the files over to there. Okay, that doesn't seem so complicated. And then I did a feature film and I was the loader and there was no dit. When you're doing that on like £1 million commercial or something, you don't want that. At the end of the day, what they want actually most importantly is which directors do you work with? That's what everybody asks. Who have you worked with that I know? Because I want to put my people out on those jobs, including you or whatever. But if you're not available, they'll phone me and then I can put so-and-so on it or whatever, you know, because that's how it works.
How do you break into the creative industry? And how do our experiences shape our careers? Welcome to the podcast that asks the most influential creatives how they got the role that ultimately changed everything and what proactive tips others can adopt to get the picture. I'm your host, Kiosa Sukami, and this podcast series is brought to you by London Podcast Studios. In this episode of Get the Picture, we're speaking with award-winning cinematographer David Wright. After studying film at Sheffield Hallam, David has gone on to shoot over 300 music videos, working with massive artists such as Drake, Charlie XCX, Stormzy, and many more. He's done countless commercials for huge brands like Adidas, Rolls Royce, Apple, Samsung, Mac, the list goes on. He's also shot many award-winning short films, and most recently, the feature film Two Neighbours, starring the witches, Anya Chalotra. Welcome to the podcast, David. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
How have you been? How's your week going so far?
Quiet.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can imagine. It's still early start of the year, isn't it? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So it's always a bit of a quiet moment, but you've done your intro there, 300 music videos. So you're should be happy you got
too many.
a little bit of
I'm
break.
all music videoed out, I think. That being said, I've got another one coming up. But yeah, no, it's quiet. I mean, the industry's quiet right now. Everybody's very quiet. So, you know, but it's about to kick off, I think. So there's going to be a lot of work coming in for a lot of people. And
is that down to the strikes? How is that?
I think it's kind of like a hangover from the strikes, and then coupled with productions I think what happened was after the strikes, they would finish off a lot of the things that were in production. And then a lot of the sort of stuff that was ready to go might have been delayed a little bit, but it seems like everything's starting to gear up now and starting to kind of push ahead. But I know it's hit a lot of people quite hard. So I've had a lot of messages from various people just, you know, seeing what's happening and stuff. But yeah, it's about to kick off again.
Well, fingers crossed it becomes a busy year. Well, yeah, so let's get jump straight into it. And then kind of, before we get into, you know, talking about your work, we really want to get to know you and find out a little bit about, you know, about David. So do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Where you from? Where were you born and raised, and what was your early childhood like? Yeah,
sure. Well, I was born in Sunderland in the northeast. And I kind of lived there until I was about 11, and then my parents sent me to the Midlands to live with my grandparents for a couple of years. And you know, I'd say I had quite a kind of a rough time growing up, and just kind of didn't have a lot of super happy memories. And then I kind of sort of settled in the Midlands for a while, and then sort of discovered that I kind of like films and stuff when I was kind of like, well, I mean, I always loved films, but found this job when I was 15 about being a DP or cinematographer. Yeah. And that was kind of,
So what was it like growing up in the northeast of England? What was like the...
it was kind of like, you know, rough as houses, as they say. You know, I didn't live in the worst part of where I lived, in the sense that, you know, it's difficult to describe, but it's the kind of place where in the late 80s and early 90s that there wasn't a lot to do, and you'd get into a lot of trouble with your friends, and you know, you have to kind of and to be fair, I wasn't really cut out for that, you know. I just wasn't. I mean, I wasn't much of a fighter when I was that age. So I was kind of happy when my parents were like, "We're going to send you off to live with your grandparents for a bit." I think they kind of knew that it was probably just not a great place, and I think they were going to move to the Midlands anyway. So they sort of sent me packing a couple of years ahead of them.
So how was that like for you then? Obviously, you know, being quite young, moving with your grandparents, a whole new city.
Oh yeah, that was really hard as well. I thought, this is going to be great. I can't wait to move to the Midlands and just completely reinvent myself. Like, that was the way I thought thought as an 11-year-old. I mean, I was literally like, oh, I'll go move there, and then I'll just make myself into a totally new person. But of course, it's kind of hard to make yourself into a totally new person when you've got a very thick Geordie accent and, you know, a lot of Midlanders who can't understand a word you're saying. so you end up getting into, I mean, I got into like 5 fights in my first 3 weeks at school or something like that. But yeah, you know, it was tough. But then I think by the time I got to high school, I kind of finally settled in and found some people who I could be friends with, and kind of you know, who are also kind of the sort of reject stoner kids type thing, you know, and those were my people. I realized that was what I loved, and we all loved watching films and stuff, and I love watching films. And, and so that's kind of.
So you mentioned that you had like a Geordie accent there. It's gone away now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, my sister's got this weird. She's got a Geordie accent. 'Cause she was actually born in Newcastle, not Sunderland, and she's got a Geordie accent, but now it's blended with a Wolverhampton accent, so it's even weirder. Yeah. But no, I mean, I had to, you know, when you're literally sitting in a class and the teachers can't understand what you're saying, and the other kids are laughing at you because the teacher can't understand you and stuff, you have to adapt. I sort of learned to adapt a lot of the time, and I think by the time I came to London when I was 21, I was just like, I had just the weirdest mishmash of accents anyway. So I still say Bath and rather than Bath, but I mean, you know, like it's pretty much just disappeared. I think
London was quite a melting pot, isn't it? So you have different accents, so you can quite easily blend in.
Yeah, I love London. I just think like it was the place that I should have ended up. You know.
So you mentioned that you always love film. Like, what was your first initial like introduction into, you know, film media and kind of thinking about, okay, maybe this might be what I want to have as a career?
I mean, I think the first time I realized I wanted it as a career was when I found out about the job of being a cinematographer. I think that was, but I'd always made films and kind of little high-8 films with my cousins, and used props and stole, you know, I think I stole my granddad's false teeth and stuck them to a snake and pretended it was a chest burster from Aliens, and like, you know, like just, you know, through a sort of semi life-size doll, you know, pretend that I hit my friend in the face and that he falls back, and then we dressed the doll in his clothes and threw it down the stairs, and we thought it was the funniest thing ever, you know, but like cutting in camera.
Yeah, it was good practice. Like,
just like, you know, the thing is, because I on the weekends I'd have to go and spend it with my nan and my granddad, you know, so I'd get shuttled around all over the place, and it's like, you know, there was nothing to do there, you know. So at least like my mom had bought this camera for holidays and I had the camera, so it was like my cousin would come around on the weekends and stuff. And so that's what we would do, because you didn't have anything else. I mean, you're watching Grandstand or, you know, like Bullseye on a Friday night whilst your grandparents are having fish and chips. I mean, it's so boring.
You got to find something for your time.
You got to find something to do. So we would just steal stuff, and like my granddad's cap, and I'd pretend I'd be on the toilet and be my granddad, and we'd film that. Just stupid stuff, really, you know.
Did you ever look back at any stuff you stole?
Unfortunately, my dad, God rest his soul, he lost all of the family tapes. Like, both my parents passed away like when I was younger, and he gave I think he went to get them digitized. Didn't tell anybody. They disappeared. So all those videotapes are gone. All the holidays, the family holidays. It's a bit of a sore point for me, but I can't really shout.
There could be some gems in there. You could have made, you know, the next Oscar with BAFTA winning film in one of those. One of those things. You know,
I mean, in a way, it's kind of probably really good.
Like, no one's
he did that. He's probably doing me a favour.
Brilliant. You know? So then, at that early age, did you then think about obviously moving into like school and potentially like education?
Yeah. So like once I figured out like, I could go do this job, that was it. And like, because I was just such a shitter of a time most of the time, and just felt on my own most of the time, and all of a sudden I was like, well, okay, this seems like so much fun, and it just made perfect sense, you know, in my head. I was like, yeah, you know, that's what I need to do. So everything I did from that point was just, every decision I made was, how do I get into because I didn't know anyone in the film industry. So, you know, I went off in the half-term holidays at college. I went and did a 12-week media thing
It's like
at,
your
at
whole
the
half term.
Lighthouse in Wolverhampton, and
Jeez.
they taught me how to use an Avid had just come out, and they had these stacks of towers of hard they you'd learn a bit of that, and you'd go out and shoot a bit of OB stuff or whatever, and that's what I did. I got a special thing from the college saying I could take a couple of weeks off college to do this whole course, and then before university I went and did a short film in the holiday. Like everybody else is just having a great time, and I'm there just
Back to your
completely
childhood
nuts.
days, isn't it? Like, yeah.
I'm just like, oh fuck it, let's just go and do that. But yeah, so really it was just finding any opportunity I could. I mean, I was so desperate though. I mean, I was I've been listening to this other podcast called Smartless, and they talk about sexy indifference. You know, like you're just kind of like yeah, whatever, you know, when you're going for jobs and you're just cool or whatever. I was just the opposite of whatever sexy indifference is. I was so like unsexy neediness.
Hire me now.
Yeah, I was like, please give me a job to anybody who would listen to me, you know. And so when I moved to London, it was like there was no, I think Facebook was only just starting to get going, and it wasn't really, I mean, it was hard to break in, you know, it was really hard.
So tell me about like your experience at like university. You studied film. So how was your film course?
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, I think university's it's a tricky subject. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend people go to university. I think you could learn a lot of it. You know, of what you get taught there outside, especially these days. Everything is online, everything is available. You can watch films almost anywhere now. And I think you can, I mean, it's good that it's structured and you meet other people who want to do the same thing as you. So in that sense, it's quite useful. And I think theory stuff is really good. But my experience at university, I would say, was complicated. It wasn't exactly the most fun I'd ever had, because my mum passed away when I was towards the end of my time at university, and then I got arrested for something, and nothing bad. It was just like drunken night out stuff, but it just went really bad, and just all these horrible things. So like I was just there trying to kind of scrape by with a 2-1 or whatever whilst my life was falling apart. So like, you know, but what I did get, what was useful is that kind of being able to read a film and watch a film, and being able to watch films that aren't just the usual stuff you'd go to the cinema to see, you know, more art house stuff or kind of films from other countries. And you know, one of my modules was, you know, East Asian cinema, and that was great. And it just meant you could you were pushed to kind of open your horizons a bit more, you know, which is, I think, is a really great thing. The problem is now is it's so expensive to go to university. I just think that maybe it's not worth it.
Honestly, I was gutted because I was one of the unlucky ones that my older sister went to university. So as soon as she graduated, I was coming into university. And as soon as I got to university, that was the year that the prices just shot through the roof.
Really?
And I was like, if I was just 1 year older, I could have just paid my £9,000 for those 3 years. But because I was just a little bit younger, I'm now stuck with that massive loan.
It's crazy, man. Like, I think I came out, I had like 12 grand of debt, which at the time seemed like a lot of money. And, you know, but that was including not just the fees, but that was like, my mom was incredible. She like budgeted my whole time at university basically. So I didn't even but she budgeted it in a way that I had like £30 a week to spend on food and going out. And I was like, I think I need some pocket money as like an 18-year-old. I was like, I don't think I can survive on this. So what I'd do is I'd max out my overdraft every year and then go in the summer holidays and work get like a full-time job and try and pay it all off. But now it's like, I mean, I was chatting to a guy a couple of years ago and he was like 50 grand or something. And I was just like, holy shit. How is this sustainable? Like, when my parents my parents didn't go to university, but they could have gone for free, you know. It's just like, I mean, that's a bigger discussion, to be fair.
So then leaving university, having this a breadth of knowledge of like seeing all these other films, what were your expectations leaving university? Did you just think, I'm a filmmaker now, or do you kind of be very humble in that, knowing that?
I was not humble. I kind of felt like I knew everything. I think what it was is I went to university with this kind of quite a big head, like, I already did a film in the summer holidays. I mean, it was really small budget, like just tiny film, but I felt like I knew everything, and I was quite a little bit arrogant, and I think people got annoyed at me, which is definitely true. But like, I think, but I always kind of had this kind of, I knew it wasn't going to be easy to break into the film industry, especially at that point, everything is such a closed shop, you know, especially the kind of stuff I wanted to do, which was, you know, like proper films, you know. And so I knew it was going to be tough, but I just thought all I've got to do is get to London. If I can get to London and survive and last and stick it out long enough, someone will give me a job. And that was my kind of mentality, really, was just, I mean, I just had to kind of really hold on to this hope and dream and just make that and just have a self-belief that it will happen. I didn't know how or where or why or who, or so like that was and it was such a big risk for me as well, because, you know, I finished university and I spent a year working. I saved up not a lot of money because it wasn't a very good job, and basically but I saved everything I could. And then I moved to London. It was gone in 3 months, like all the money. And I think I'd done and because the idea was to move to London and just not have to work for maybe 6 months, just so I could find the people and do and just get the work. But that didn't happen. I think I
stuck on that £30 a week.
Yeah, I think I made 150 quid, and that was because somebody took pity on me. I was helping them out, and they were like, "Hey, just give him 50 quid." That's how I made my money. And then I got to the end of that. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I've had no money, and I phoned my dad up. This was after my mom died, and I was like, "Oh, hi, Dad. I've got because what happened was I had to get a job to survive. So I managed to get a few interviews and kind of bluff my way through, and I got offered a job, which was great. I mean, the first part, I went for an interview 3 times at this one company, and for different roles, but they liked me from the temp agency. They were like like me, and they were like, "Oh, we don't think." The first job, they were like, I did this whole interview, and it went really well, and they were like, "So have you got any questions?" And I was like, "Yeah, do you pay weekly or monthly?" And the temp agency person, a week later, was like, "So the interview really went really well, but don't ask if they're going to pay," because I literally had no money. I couldn't pay my rent, right? So
there wasn't my dad so much to like come back for 2 other roles after that. It's like,
it was hard.
So much, we'll find you something else.
That was good. I mean, at that point, the jobs market wasn't so like. I mean, it was a bit easier to kind of get a couple of options going and stuff. It seemed like there was a few options, and I had I mean, it was a film degree, but I had a degree, so that was useful. But yeah, my dad was like, you know, he's like, "No, I don't have any. I don't have any money. You can't have any money." And then I think the only reason I was able to, so I just needed 1 month's rent to be able to then sort of get my paycheck.
Yeah.
And luckily my gran was like, "Oh, I've been saving up a bit of money for you, so you can have that." And I just literally was like, "Fucking thank God."
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And that happened a few times. I remember one time I was doing a short film and I didn't have any. I couldn't pay the rent, and I was basically going to get kicked out. And the DP did a whip around the crew, and then all of a sudden I had £400, and that was my rent. And I was like, "Fuck!" Like, thank God.
Yeah, you must have an impact on people. Everyone.
Oh yeah, that was Robbie Ryan, who's just. Did he win the Oscar this year? No, it wasn't. Who won the Oscar for cinematography? Hoyter. Was it Hoyter? Yeah. But he was up for an Oscar this year, and it was on his short film, and he was the one who did the whip around.
Wow.
And I was just like, I'll be forever indebted to him for that, you know, because it was just like that was it was hard.
What was the job that you were doing when you?
It was with it was a short film. I think it was called Sun, and it was with the guy who directed that. Actually won a BAFTA for a short film about 2 years ago. For I think a short film called Home, which was amazing. Like really, I saw it. And it made my heart I almost went into like palpitations because it was so intense. It was about a family who are leaving the UK to go abroad, and you think they're going on holiday to start with, but it's actually sort of about how families leave war-torn countries, and you know the family have to get into the boot of a car, and it just really brings it home for like, you know,
people that haven't seen that.
Yeah. And you're just like, fuck, like, and it's just like, I just remember sitting there just being really.
Yeah,
it was a hard watch, but it was a really good film. I mean, it deserved the BAFTA.
Yeah. So what was the roles that you were doing when you mentioned that you were sort of being?
So I went to like there was an engineering firm, and then there was like this publishers in Ealing called Transworld Random House.
Okay.
Who do all they did all the Dan Brown books, you know, the Da Vinci Code and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was where I went for an interview at first at one of the, and I knew that would be I thought this is the closest thing I can get to like being in the media and being near films and stuff. Like maybe this is the way that I'm gonna, this is maybe what I've got to do instead, you know, because I constantly get like the previous job I had was at a call center at a bank, and it was just like bottom of the pile, you know, 10 grand a year or 9 grand a year or something starting salary when I went. And I remember by the time I'd finished that, I was like, maybe I could be a broker or something, or work in banking. You know, I keep on kind of having these ideas of how, you know, if this doesn't work out, what am I going to do? But yeah, it was a publishing house. And to be fair, it was really good for me to do that because my boss, Alma, she was really supportive. She knew it was the kind of job at this company that she knew nobody ever stayed in, because it was just kind of like, it was kind of a shitty job or whatever. And she was always really supportive. She was like always saying, oh, you'll be gone, you know, you'll be gone soon. And I would go on the weekends or take holiday days to kind of go and for any opportunity that would arise, you know, like a rubbish music video or whatever I could find, you know, I would take my time off and go and do that to try and get a chink into, you know, try and find some kind of way into the armor of the film industry, you know. And she was so great that I finally got offered a 6-week job on a TV series, like a comedy TV series.
What was the role you got offered on that?
Camera Trainee. And like, but it started on the Monday and I found out about it on the Thursday, and you're supposed to give a month's notice and all this. And she was just like, I was like, I had a personal number and I found out, I was like, look, I've been offered this job. It's like my dream job. But it starts on Monday. And she was so good about it. She took all the flack from her boss for letting me go like straight away and just go and do it. But I remember on the first day, so they had someone, I turned up on day 2 of the shoot, and they found someone for day 1 and offered them the whole series instead of me.
Oh my God.
And I remember like literally the focus puller, poor focus puller, he had me and this other person, and he was like, okay, so they've basically told me I've got to get rid of one of you. And I just went, I have quit my job. I am staying here whether they pay me or not. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm literally I can't, you know, what am I going to do? You know? And he was like, And I think in the end they kept both of us because the thing is, I think he was smart. He went back and he said, I haven't got a second AC, but I've got 2 trainees now. Okay, so one of them can do video one day. So that's what we did. We would flip. One of us would do video, and then the other one would camera trainee, and the other one would camera trainee, and one would do video. So one of us would put the boards on, but it was so stressful for me because like you need a loader to mentor you, and we didn't have that, and it was just
straight in the deep end.
Yeah, I remember we had like a loader one day when we were doing some low loader stuff, and when we would be at unit base with him, and he would be like, so this is when you can kind of brush out the camera truck, this is when you can reorganize stuff. And we were like, yeah, great, we'll do that. You know, instead of just standing around, you know, waiting for them to come back. We were like, oh yeah, we could keep working and do stuff, you know.
Well, it's good that they found that those 2 roles for you, because imagine how gutted you would have been to have to go back to your old job after giving them one working day.
I don't think I would have. I think I would have just been like, okay,
that's it. Yeah,
back to the temp agency, try and find a new job. You know.
So you mentioned that you were doing quite a lot of sort of independent projects. Anything that anyone would sort of hire you. What was sort of type of stuff that you were doing? You know, then like
just like to start with, just the most basic of basic stuff. So like. So I only knew one person in the film industry, which I'd met through a module at university where they said you could go and study whatever you want to study. And I was like, how can I leverage this to like for something that's going to be useful? And I was like, oh, I'll interview a DP. And so I met this DP who happened to be like a BSc cameraman. So like that was really good. So I knew that person, and I tried to do the sexy and difference thing and not be too like emailing too much, but that was the only person I knew before I moved to London. So I was like, okay. And then they put me in touch with their sort of loader focus puller, sort of someone they were mentoring kind of thing. Okay. And that person gave me a couple of like really basic Z1. I don't know if you know about the Z1 camera, but it's like
the red. Is that original?
No, it was before the red camera. Yeah. It was like it was like the digital but standard definition.
Okay.
It's like 700 resolution or something. Anyway,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I remember it's just me and him, and we do the lighting together. And then then meant he invited me to his diary service in Ealing.
Okay.
It was called the Diary Service, and I met a few people there, and that's how I sort of started to like meet people and find like job opportunities. I
Yeah,
think I did like
yeah.
a commercial on 16mm one time, and yeah, and that was it. I mean,
Did
but
it go well? That one.
yeah, it went well. Well, that from that job, I got recommended to go and do this TV show
Okay.
called Man Stroke Woman. It was like the second series, and then straight after that, I remember I finished it and I was like, okay, I've done this, but still didn't have any contacts or anything. And obviously, it was such a chaotic shoot with 2 camera trainees and just like this focus puller who was probably stressed the whole time about the whole thing. And I was like, okay, where am I going to get some jobs now? And then it hit home that actually I didn't know anybody, and that 6 weeks is gone, and that's it. And but I was lucky enough to have met a guy called Peter Meakin at the Diary Drinks,
Okay.
and become friendly with him. He lived in Ealing, and he was like at the Christmas drinks, and he was just like, "Oh, let's go grab a drink." And I remember chatting to him, and we would have a good natter at the pub. And he was kind of a bit of a mentor-y kind of person. And he was like, "Don't worry, you'll be making loads of money soon." Because I remember being like, "I can't afford to buy the next round. I'm just going to go." And he's like, "Don't worry, I'll pay this round of pools on me," and all that kind of stuff. And he put me in to do his job as a camera assistant on a documentary with Michael Palin,
Wow.
like a month or two after I finished that TV show, and
Yeah.
that got me through Christmas.
Okay.
So I was like, and that was like 3 weeks work traveling around Eastern Europe, and just like, you know, I went and met because his dad has worked with Michael Palin for like 25 years on all of his documentaries and stuff, and you know, so I went and met him, and he was bigging me up to him and saying, "Oh, he reads all the manuals of the cameras and everything," because he was going digital. Like he'd shot everything on 16mm, and that was the first time he was shooting on a HD camera.
Okay.
So like
It
that's
was
how
good
I
to
got
have
in.
someone-
Yeah, I mean, I still fucked it up, but you know, left the base plate back at the hotel one day, and just like was again rabbit in the headlights. You know, just like every day, just being like, "There's Michael Palin, getting drunk with Michael Palin, and he's singing the Lumberjack song now, and he's like a hero of mine, and this is all too much." And now I'm on a train being shunted by. There was one time we were going up into the Romanian mountains, and I was in the back of a van, like a VW camper van that they converted to a train tracks, and they're filming on the main sort of steam train going up with all these lumberjacks into the mountains, and I'm on this in front of them, and it's coming towards us, and it starts shunting the back of the car, and I'm trying to film out, and I'm like freaking out. And then you cut to later on whilst we're having drinks afterwards, and they're all just playing the footage of me going, "Oh fucking hell," like just like freaking out. And the train driver was obviously doing it as a joke. Everybody's laughing at me in the car, and then everybody's laughing at me. I mean, it happens quite a lot, actually, to be fair.
And on the flip side of things, then, have you ever had any projects that you worked on that you may have not had, you know, a great experience on, or might have not turned out?
Yeah,
You can tell us about.
I guess so. One time when I was a trainee, I was in the West End with my girlfriend and my sister and her husband watching a West End show or whatever at like about 10 at night, and I was really broke at the time. This was before I did DIT, and at the intermission I checked my phone and I had a phone call, and it was for a job, but I had to leave right then. And I was like, I've got to go, like, you know, which is like awful to do that. But I was like, I gotta go. And I went and did this job. I was working on Wolfman with Benicio del Toro.
Okay.
And I was as a trainee, and I just turned up, and it's like chaos. Like everybody's like running around, like doing second unit stuff. And I'm just like there, like, oh God, I'm so out of my depth. Like,
Yeah.
and I got saddled with like the most horrible camera assist focus puller I'd ever known, and never worked with, and never worked with again. It was just this one night, this one guy. And I remember another person I knew was like, "Oh, just ignore anything that he says." And I was like, "Oh no, this is going to be bad." And I just remember there being like, he was like, wanted some gaffer tape, and I didn't have it because I was a trainee, and I just turned up in the middle of like a huge like film, you know, and he was like, "Well, it's just not good enough, is it?" And I was just like. And I just remember just being like, this, like, seriously, like, what am I doing?
For me.
And like, you know, I needed the money, so I was glad to have it. You know, it was a night rate for a trainee, you know, it's like 300 quid or something. But I remember I got the next day, and my girlfriend was just like, I wasn't really very cool. That wasn't very cool. You just left me with your sister. I was like, yeah, I know. And it was horrible as well. I hated every second of it.
So it wasn't even worth it.
And so after that, I made a decision that I wasn't going to do stupid shit like that anymore.
Better choices from there.
That was horrible. Yeah.
So then how did you then move over to like from being a camera trainee into obviously where you are now? Did you like do the traditional thing of working your way into the camera department?
Yeah, that was the main kind of thing.
Yeah,
I sort of worked I was always very much like, I knew how much technicalities there were. And at the time when I joined, film was like 35mm was the pinnacle of filmmaking, you know, and to do that, you had to have such a wealth of knowledge. And, you know, I'd have the ASC book manual and I'd be reading through that, you know, and just learning all the different things like zone systems, and I knew how much there was to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to be able to work my way up, like, you know, but that was at that particular point. I think that was the best thing for me. So that's what I did. I just kind of worked my way up and traineed and loaded. I did a bit of focus pulling, but then I flipped over to DIT in the beginning days of the red one.
Okay.
Which was the best thing ever, because I'd sort of scratched around for years trying to make enough money and meet enough people to build my career up and stuff. And it was really hard work, you know.
So what was it that you got into the DIT aspect of it? Was it just out of, you know, wanting consistent work, or did you think maybe this might be something?
No, it was just through chance, really. It was kind of, you know, I've been focus pulling for a DP called Ed Rutherford on some music videos and a few commercials and stuff, and he was starting to use the red one, and I didn't know anything about the red one. And then I remember just being like, I need to figure this out. And I did a music video with Justin Brown, who's another DP who's really good, and I was focus pulling with him. And just being like, so what do you do, like, to the DIT? So what are you doing? You know, what, you're just dragging the files over to there? Okay, that doesn't seem so complicated. And then I did a feature film, and I was the loader, and there was no DIT. So I got a trainee who's now a DP called Murren Tullett, who's really good. He was my trainee. He's doing fantastic now as a DP. He's just, I think his film won a BAFTA or something. But he was my trainee, and he was a good laugh. So he would stay on the set whilst I'd go off and back up all the rushes and stuff. And that's basically it. I did that film, and everybody heard that I'd DIT'd, you know, which was just back it up and make sure you don't lose the footage.
Now you're probably the go-to guy now, apparently.
Yeah, and then like there wasn't very many people that you could trust then. It was all kind of post people who owned the cameras, who didn't know how a set ran and didn't know the on-set politics, and you know, or have a good system for, you know, they would lose rushes or drives would go down, and you know, people would you know, on proper, like when you're doing that on like £1 million commercial or something, you don't want that to happen, right?
Yeah.
So that was a turning point in my career, because all of a sudden there wasn't very many people doing that, and we all clumped together and helped each other out and said, oh, I'm going to buy this piece of equipment, or I'm buying this, and just figuring it out together. And then because there wasn't many of us, all of a sudden it meant there was so many jobs and I was working with so many DPs that I'd gone from working with maybe 5 DPs to like all of a sudden hundreds, you know, like hundreds, and like not just any old people, like proper like ASC, BSc, and they would be asking me questions about. I mean, I remember I did one with a job of, it was Paul McCartney in it, and it was Roger Pratt was the cameraman who shot like Brazil and 12 Monkeys and just like all these amazing, and like Monty Python and stuff, and he was asking me about the digital stuff, and I'm just like, you know, dude, like, what I don't fucking know anything. Like, you're the expert. But then it made me realize that it just kind of got you into a bit. It gave me a lot of confidence, I think, and also a complete understanding of digital cinematography, I think, from most angles.
Yeah. Can you tell us, maybe let's move from after working with Sasha, and what that sort of did for you? And
I mean, I think just the long and the short of it really is, you know, it wasn't a quick process. You know, I worked with some other directors, like a guy called Joshua Lipworth, Gabriel Getman, and then I kind of expanded out and worked with a director called Jeremy Cole, who's really cool, and like just sort of slowly inching my way, you know, towards something. I was quite lucky. I was with a diary service who would chuck a few jobs every now and again. I'd win a job that their DPs would normally do, and so I'd get a couple of decent kind of commercials here and there, things I could put on the reel. But yeah, it wasn't until I got an agent that I had to fully pack in being an assistant or a DIT, you know, which is what I was doing to make most of my money, even right up until I went full time. So yeah.
And how did you get an agent? Was it just like you cold calling them, or
so yeah, basically, I mean, no, I mean, yeah, I'd send emails out to people, and I was lucky enough to know someone who became an agent who used to work at Panelux, the lighting company, and they give me some advice, but they weren't ever going to sign me at that point. And yeah, just basically just kind of I my first agent basically just emailed me a year after I'd emailed them. So and also I just think it's better for them to come to you. So in a way, if they hadn't, not sure if they actually saw my email that I sent to them, they might have just put it on a pile. But it's really hard though. It's hard for people finding agents. Like I speak to my agent, you know, especially now, and it's quiet. You know, you get people who are graduates, you get people who have been doing it for a long time, you know, people who are really good, but they just can't take anybody on at the moment. There's just that simple fact of, unless it's, you know, like Oscar winning so-and-so, then obviously they're going to do that. But obviously, like, to take new people on, because when an agent, the way an agent works and is that if they're going to take someone who's maybe at the beginning of their career, it's with the idea that they're going to have to nurture that person, they're going to have to push that person. It takes a lot of investment and time and shopping them around town and stuff, you know. So it's not, they want to find someone who plugs a gap that they're currently missing, like whether they do a lot of fashion work or if they do a lot of music videos with, and at the end of the day, what they want actually most importantly is, which directors do you work with? That's what everybody asks. Who have you worked with? Like, who have you worked with that I know? Because I want to put my people out on those jobs, including you or whatever. But if you're not available, they'll phone me and then I can put so and so on it or whatever, you know, because that's how it works, you know, like, and that's fine. You got to make your peace with that. But yeah, so it's hard. So it's better to just keep your head down. Absolutely go and meet agents if you can. Go to drink stuff, you know, send them emails just to let them know what you're up to and that. But I think you just have to, don't worry too much about that, I would say. Yeah.
And then you mentioned that you were doing a lot of DIT work sort of before you said that I'm going to call myself a cinematographer now.
Yeah.
What was that like? And how long did it sort of take you to officially actually become a DLP? You said you were doing a lot of DIT work at the time.
Yeah, I think so. Basically, I kind of always say it was kind of like almost like a 3-year transition kind of thing. So I think I spent about 3 years being I'm just going to make money and become a bit more financially stable, you know, finally. And then after that, I was like, okay, I really want to DP still. And I would speak to runners on set. I always say the best people to talk to for any budding kind of cinematographer is to talk to runners on set, because most of them want to be directors or at least want to try it, and they have ideas and they have stories they want to tell. And if you can get in there and say, I've got a camera, I can go to a rental house, or I know so and so, or what's his name will help me, you know, then you can leverage that a little bit to get on the projects and stuff. So that's kind of a really good way of doing it, I would say. And you just need to use anything at your arsenal to try and convince them to do that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember even just like, and DPs will help you as well. Like good DPs, nice DPs will absolutely encourage and kind of say, okay, you know, if you've got someone who's a friend like that, you can kind of say, oh, I've got this project with a runner, I need to hire a camera or whatever. Can you put in a good word for me or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And they'll always help each other out. I think it's so much different to when I started, you know, like people were always like, the rivalries were sometimes quite fierce, and sometimes, you know, you'd always get people who'd be a bit like, meh, you know. But now it's so much more like people are so much more helpful to each other, which I love, you know. I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah. So you've done so much different like projects, whether it's music videos, commercials, film, TV. Having done all of those types of formats, what are there any differences that you've seen? Are there any sort of like preferences in terms of like what you enjoy doing the most?
Films are definitely what I love. I love watching them. I love being a part of that. But I think each medium has its own like advantage. Like music videos are great because you can try stuff out, you know, you can play with new technology, you can throw wild ideas in, and everybody's like, yeah, I love that, it's cool. I mean, like, you can do crazy stuff, and so a lot of the time, or you can just talk to a music video director and be like, oh, I've got this idea for this kind of thing, or have you seen this particular piece of equipment, or have you seen this or that or the other, and they'll write that into the treatment, and then then all of a sudden you're doing it, that's the great thing about music videos. And the really great ones are the ones where the director's collaborating with the artist, and there's trust, and there's this kind of mutual working together, because that means you can really elevate it to like the best it can be. I mean, I love music videos, and I love watching some of them. I'm just like, wow, you know, they're incredible. And that most of the time comes from, you know, either directors who are so established and famous that they can do whatever they want, or through directors who've got incredibly good relationships with the artists. So that they're really good for, like, as kind of like to practice, to try stuff out without worrying too much about failing at something if it doesn't work, or having to drop something because you don't have time, you know. But short films are also obviously really good if you want to do films, because they're kind of like a good proving ground. And then commercials are really good because, well, they pay well, but also you get to play. I mean, I look at commercials as being like smaller, you know, Hollywood films, almost like the budgets. You get much more to play with. You get your techno cranes, you get your car rigs, you get your all that, you know, you can play around with all of that stuff, which is what you get, you know, on bigger budget films anyway. So you can kind of get that experience and stuff, and kind of build that experience in that respect as well.
Any pressure in terms of like commercial? Obviously there's
always pressure, definitely. A lot of the time pressures and stuff, but you know, I think it depends on the director you work with as well. Like, some directors, you know, it could be pressure in different ways. Like, some directors are pretty chill, and that gives you a lot of pressure because you're like, oh yeah, I need to like, we need to like step it up or whatever. And then other directors are like really hard, but that ends up making you even better, you know. So and commercials as well, you got to think that you're not just making, it's not like a short film or a music video where there's maybe less pressure to, you know, in a music video, as long as they look great, most of the time the artist is going to be happy. But in a commercial, you know, you can't light it. Sometimes you can't go too dark, or if the brand doesn't want that, or you can't, you know, if you don't make this thing that you've sold in work, then people start really like, will that's really gonna affect your kind of standing, you know, as a commercials cinematographer. You know, you need to, you know, you have to be really, really good at your job in so many different ways, not just technically, but politically and socially, and just how you work with, say, kids and animals, versus how you work with celebrity footballers or famous actors who are used to doing features who don't want to do a fucking commercial for mayonnaise or whatever, you know, and like how you navigate that stuff and make sure that everybody's happy, and make sure the producers and the client and the agency, and you know, you have like literally tents of 20 people in that tent over there, just and 20 people, and all they're doing is judging what you're doing, right?
No pressure, right? Yeah.
Well, they're not judging, but they're just like, they have boxes they have to tick, and they have ideas as to what you're trying to do, and you have to try and eliminate as much as possible in pre-production and in the lead up and on the shoot day. You know, you have to really navigate all these different people and what they want and what they expect, and the director, who's really the first person you need to, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the first person on the list who you have to work for. And, you know, some directors are like, fuck all of those guys. You know, like, this is what we're doing. This is what I sold in the treatments. This is what we're doing, you know. And I love people like that, because you're like, great, let's go, you know.
So you mentioned obviously like pre-production. So what is like your process in terms of like getting a brief, getting a project? What do you look for, and what do you do before you actually get on set?
That's a good question. I mean, it does vary from the type of production, whether it's a music video or whatever. I mean,
do you maybe have like a things that you know that I always do it?
Yeah,
regularly?
I mean, these days my process is a lot better than it was. You know, what the first thing I'll do is I'll just open a blank page. I'll have a treatment or whatever it is on the site, or a script, and then the blank page, and I will just write notes, or I'll just keep writing notes all the way down, anything that is relevant to anything that's in that document. And then I can see, okay, we're going to need a certain, like a periscope lens, or we're going to need to, or I need to focus in on this emotion at this point in the script, or I need to, and just like really stream of consciousness stuff. And then I'll kind of feel more prepared to then go and have a pre-production call with the director and sort of sit there and go through what they think. And then if there's anything in my notes that we haven't talked about, I can grab that. And then I'll just keep adding stuff into that and adding into it. And then I'll go away and usually go away and kind of look at references, find references, share with the director and kind of, but really you're just trying to kind of get into the mindset of what the director wants to do.
Yeah.
And then kind of just run with that and embellish and make it better. And I think like just ideas are like your best currency as well. Like how do we, I love, there's a director with a lot called Thor, and he's always asking like, how can we make it better? Like, how can we make this even better? Like, I don't just want, like the last job I did with him, we were doing, it was like a washing machine commercial, and we were shooting some phantom motion control stuff of like just some, like the washing powder going into the drum, right? But we tested all sorts of different materials, the jet pushing the powder in, which colors would be right, and then how to like not just make it just a shot, like the reference we were looking at was just a flat on shot and the thing coming. We were like, let's move around it and do this and do that, and
inside of the
machine, like you have to kind of get a drum and cut it in half and do this, and then you have to get a circuit, and you just kind of do all this. How do we push it more and more and more, and so I think like being in that kind of mindset is definitely as a cinematographer is a really good. That is your currency. That is what you're bringing as value, like in the pre-production process, can it get into that and just kind of like, how can we elevate it? How can we make it more? And sometimes it's very prescriptive. You have a storyboard and everything has already been done. You're maybe doing the third of the campaign and they've already established everything. So you're just doing that. But then it's like, okay, so where can I bring value here? You start going more into the references and thinking about the look and kind of just really honing that aspect of it, just really kind of making it, bringing it something special out of that, but you have to keep it within a certain world, it's like if you were doing a TV series, I guess you have to shoot it a certain way, but how can you make it even better?
Because that's what, that's like you said, that's what you're brought on to do, isn't it? To kind of improve on that project. So having done over like 300 music videos, I'm assuming you're probably tired of them now. Like, you prefer commercials now, or like what's?
I think I do prefer, like, out of music videos and commercials, I think I probably do prefer commercials. They don't have as much sort of cachet or whatever as music videos do. They're not as artistic, but what you do get is really cool experiences, and actually you get paid quite well to do them as well. So like like for instance, what I've got a job coming up which might be 3 weeks in Sri Lanka, which would be amazing, if that happens. And that's just going to be going around Sri Lanka filming for 3 weeks. I mean, come on, that sounds incredible.
It's a dream, isn't it?
And it will look amazing because the director is really good. And, like I did a job for Turkish Airlines and we went all around Turkey, and do you know what I mean? And it was great. It was so much fun, and it was hard work, but you don't get those kind of opportunities on music videos, or even sometimes, I mean, you probably get opportunities like that on bigger films and stuff. But,
Well, it's actually a good segue to talk about your that work on that Turkish Airlines commercial. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just quickly have a quick watch through it, and then we'll just have a moment, just talk about it, maybe break up a couple of shots from it and kind of just talk it through.
Absolutely.
Is that all right? Yeah. So the first thing that I noticed about this commercial was that there were so many different locations, so it going back to back. So how was that like working internationally? I'm assuming.
No, it was all in Turkey.
All in Turkey. Okay, great. Yeah. So all those locations, because there's one shot that was like they were having like Chinese New Year and everything.
Yeah, so that was the Turkish street. So that was right near the bazaar in Istanbul. So, but what we did was we dressed it. We got loads of extras. We basically just did all of that stuff, like smoke and haze, and put neons all the way down the street and everything. Yeah.
How was it working abroad? Like, you said it was like a 4-week 4-week shoot.
Yeah, I think this was 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
It
how
good.
was that? How was that like working internationally? Have you done that? Did you do
I
it
do
before
that
at
a
that
lot.
point?
Yeah.
Do you how do you deal with like crew, like international crew and working with you? Do you normally like bring some of your
I mean, that would be nice, but
Yeah.
not normally. No, I mean, it depends. I think, so I did a job for I think it was Adidas, but it was kind of like more of a shooting footballers in different countries, more doco style, but we shot it on anamorphics and stuff. And I bought my focus puller on that, and we just went to like different, like Spain and Germany and France and everything. Because that was the kind of vibe of that shoot. So that was okay. But when it comes to stuff like this, it's generally quite hard to bring your own crew out, not unheard of. I mean, absolutely. I've seen directors bring first ADs out, but you're going to find it hard to bring a gaffer or a focus puller. You have to work with local crews. So like Turkey, I've actually worked quite a lot in Turkey now. So I have a regular crew that I work with out there, and they're really good. That being said, the last shoot I did out there, I had a new gaffer, but turns out he had trained the gaffer that I work with. So he was really nice. And they're lovely. That was for Cartier shoot that we did. And but yeah, it's kind of like I think you need to, again, it's this politics thing, and it's the ability to work with everybody anywhere. You have to. I think you shouldn't be doing a job if you can't get on with people. You need to be able to vibe with people and just get them on side and want to do a good job for you and stuff. And I think, sometimes I work with people like in Turkey or wherever, and they'll be surprised that I'm not a complete, a-hole or something. Because I think you get a lot of people who are. I mean, it's less so now, but I mean, I certainly experienced it.
There was a shot that I saw there that was like a night sky, beautifully lit with stars out. How did you guys VFX? But how was it to light that, knowing that you're going to have VFX in post?
Which one was it? The one where he's in the desert?
In the desert,
yeah, at the start. So I mean, most of that, the only VFX bit is just the stars, because like if you look at the sky, you'll never see the stars when the sun's out. I had a massive conversation on a shoot recently about the moonlight. I was like, they showed me all the reference plates like the day before the shoot, and I was like, they were all in the sunshine. I was like, how often do you see the moon casting a light on someone? But yeah, no, we just shot that at sunset. So yeah, sunset, practical firelight in the middle. I had a couple of nicks or whatever, like bulbs that we put into some of the things and made them flicker. And I had a couple of like additional lights just in case. But really, you don't want to overlight something like this. So the sun on the left was setting. We scouted this beforehand and found this very specific angle with a bit of the tree there and everything. But this is just on the beach in Turkey, on a Turkish beach, where the closest thing we could find to sand dunes. And basically, we just built this. And I mean, I remember the production didn't want to go like all the way here. This wasn't that far, but I had to be like, no, like
to get the proper...
there was a hill with like about 1 million footprints in, which wouldn't have looked like the middle of the desert. Or there was this place which was a small 15-minute hike or something, but when you've got all the equipment, it's quite a lot. But they just built that, and I just put some. I mean, really, that's just ambient light falling on them. The fire and just 4 bulbs in the back. I mean, really, that's the only lighting, is the 4 bulbs in the background.
Very efficient there.
You don't need to have a lot. No.
And on that roller coaster shot, that was a scene where they were on a roller coaster. How did you guys achieve that? Was it like you have to lock off the whole?
We just turn up before. We turn up really early in the morning. So we did it a few times. It was bloody fast, that roller coaster.
So just go back a little bit. It's a couple of seconds before.
And basically, we have to shoot a plate where he's not there, shoot a plate where he's there. But yeah, that was just rigging it to the roller coaster and just waiting and just finding the perfect spot on the roller coaster. So you can see this is just before the sun rose. We actually got some stuff after the sun came up as well. But yeah, you just get a really good grip, and just make sure that they know exactly what it is you're doing. You get Artemis or whatever on your phone. You find the angle. You work out, if this is the shot there, how much space do I need for the camera? And you talk it, just all the very practical things. And he built a scaff tube rig for that. And then we put the camera on, like a lightweight camera. We strapped the battery separately and just made sure it was super, super safe and everything. And just, I think I put a zoom lens on so that we could adjust the frame if we needed to.
Okay,
but
great. And then there was that shot with the diver going in the water. There's quite a mixture of different types of setups that you guys had there. So
so that was so that was actually 2 shots stitched, but it was the same.
Okay.
We did it all in one move.
Okay.
But it was just, there was a lot of, when you plunge that into the water, there's a lot of bubbles.
Yeah.
So we just kind of cut some of the front, like a second out of that so that it worked. So it's the same. So we just have a camera in an underwater housing on the end of a crane.
Yeah.
And then we're on a boat next to this other boat. And we just plunge the camera into the water on a fixed lens.
Yeah.
I mean, you can move it. It wasn't a remote head that was going to be too expensive. So you just find the cheapest way to do it, because even on these, I mean, it's a big budget commercial, but even on that, you have to be really efficient on how you spend your money and like where you put it and how you do it. So some of the scenes, we will do several scenes in the same location, but just have to light it different. Like him waking up in Japan, him in the kitchen in the morning, him jumping into the pool. All of those scenes were at one place, So and you just think of
like, had to make them look different.
Yeah, like the Japan one they had like a big glass window, and I just kind of put it halfway down and just let the sunlight come in, and that's a really quick, efficient setup.
Yeah.
I mean, that cave was a pain in the butt, because there was no light in there. That was to the side of a road.
That when he's by bathing in water or anything.
He's to the side of the road. That was we just scouted that and found this place at the side of the road, and the fixer had, and we were like, cool. And I was in this like wetsuit thing, and the director had a really good idea of just having him come out of the water here, which would be a nice stitch. But and all I had for that was a bit of haze in the background, because we just shot it at the right time of day, and just a reflector.
Wow.
Just a gold reflector.
Yeah, is that because obviously you're moving quite a lot, so you have to really like be quite light on your feet?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you can. I mean, I could have like put a load of big lights up or whatever. I can do all of that stuff, but the thing is, you don't need to. You don't need to. Not for something like that. I mean, if you're shooting a scene over multiple days in one location, on location, and you need to have a consistency of lighting, then you'll stick a whole load of really expensive lighting in and do it like that, because you need to keep it consistent or whatever. But when you're just going in and shooting a scene for an hour like this, you just want to make sure it looks good, it hits all, and once you've got the confidence and you've done it enough,
then it's all good.
Yeah, it's all gravy.
Amazing. So we're going to look at a music video that you shot as well. Obviously, there's out of the 300 we had kind of narrow it down, but we kind of went for one that people will like and kind of recognize. So it's Slow Tie, Inglorious, featuring Skepta.
Yeah.
So how did this come about as well? Have you worked with the director beforehand?
Yeah, so it's like a director collective called Crowns and Owls. I'd done 2. I think I'd shot 2 things with them, a music video, and there was something else I shot before this with them. I'm sure it was 2 things and then this. And they just sent me they sent me the treatment for this, and I was just immediately like, this is going to be such a sick music video. I knew when I saw it, and he was one of the guys was talking me through it. And I was just like, yeah, okay, this is going to be amazing. Like, I could see the whole thing. The whole first half, they'd pretty much planned out anyway, because they knew how they wanted to do it.
Had to lay it.
So really for me, it was just, that's when I go into the visuals and be like, okay, so I know we're going to do this move where he gets plunged and then there's a different person every time he comes out.
So how did you achieve that? Was it like a motion control?
Motion control. I mean, I did kind of float the suggestion, because this was a really tight budget music video. Like I think like 20 grand or something. I don't know. It was really like quite a low budget, really. I think most of the money went on the motion control. But I floated an idea of maybe doing something else. Maybe we could do it a different way, but to get that speed and that accuracy and to be able to do those transitions between the cuts, it was never gonna work unless it was on motion control, basically. So
And then this straight jacket scene. Can you tell us a little bit about the lens choices? Because there is a lot of like zooms going on here as well, and movement going on.
So I had some French primes, and then I had a Canon zoom, which so we were going for this whole Kubrick thing, like, and I wanted it to feel kind of 70s, like have that Kubrick vibe to it or whatever. So I actually got one of the Canon zooms that he used on a lot of his film, not the same one, but just a similar kind of thing. And that actually turned, I mean, I love that lens. It's a Canon, I'd say the 18-100, or I think it's an 18-100, and it's just a great lens, Varitol. And so it's quite useful for changing focal lengths and stuff. But this is a GoPro.
Oh, you just read on there?
Yeah. But the colorist, this is the first time I worked with the colorist.
Really well,
Johnny Tully, and we printed it all to film, and he graded it all. And so like even the GoPro, I think, sort of falls into line with printing it to film, brings everything back into one look again, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, it's great fun. It's definitely worth having a play.
I also noticed that there was a lot of black projections that you used in this video. Was that part of the Kubrick vibe that you're going for? What was the inspiration?
Back projections.
Yeah, because
so this is very Clockwork Orange, you know.
Yeah.
So everything with him in the chair here was all one take. So the slow zoom out here was one take. That was the beginning of the take.
Yeah.
And then all the handheld stuff was on the same take. So we just got him to rehearse it, to do it once, because it was really painful for his eyes.
So was this all like the way that the light's flashing and everything? Is this all from the projection itself, or you actually?
Yeah, from the projection.
Wow, okay.
But then I lit this, and you angle it, and I had, so yeah. And then the good thing about that zoom lens is it's got these really lovely flares as well, which look great.
And then the other scene I want to talk about was this shot here, because obviously you have the camera spinning on the
turret, yeah.
So how can you tell us a little about
just get a grip? I mean, yeah, seriously. Like if you got a roller coaster, or you're gonna rig a camera to attack. Honestly, like the best thing, like my advice to anybody who wants to do this or does this, is just find the nicest people who are just the best people at their job. You know, that'll be easy, right? But you know, like if you can find you want just a really lovely crew of people all around you, you know, who get on with each other and are really fucking good at their job. And I tell you, it makes your life, it makes it so much easier, because you know what, like they all give a shit as well, like, and because you like each other, you don't want to let each other down, and you're friends with each other, and you know, if it's a particularly tough shoot, you all stick together, and you're like, at least we've got each other, kind of thing, you know. And if you get like a really good grip who knows their stuff, they will just be like, I can rig that for you.
You know, which is us kind of don't blink.
If you get a really good gaffer, you don't have to worry too much. You know, I've got this pack. You know, if you're starting out and you've got like pack shots of beer or something like that, you've got like a really good gaffer who's done it all and is also a nice person to boot. They will light it for you, you know, like until you know how to do it yourself, like, you know, and then you get to a point where you know what you're doing. But you know, whilst you're starting out, like you've got all these people who are really good, and if you're doing a commercial or something, they will always pay people the money to do it, so you can hire whoever you want, like pretty much, because it's standardized rates. So just find good people, and they will back you up, and if you keep on hiring them, they'll like working with you. You know, they don't actually have to work with you. Like grips, especially. They don't work with people they don't want to work with.
Exactly, because they're hiring them. Like you said, if they can rig a camera on you know, a tank like this, then they must be.
I've tried to hire this guy a couple. Like this is the only job I did with this particular grip. Alfred, I think his name was, and I've tried to hire him a few times since, but he's never. I think he lives north. He does more jobs up north.
Okay,
this was near Northampton. That I did this.
I noticed as well that it switches between like day and night. So was that quite a long shoot, or?
So we did the other. So all the stuff up to the tank is all at a location, a separate location. All this stuff is at another location.
Okay.
And we just again like rigging the car shot later where he's hanging out the window. Yeah. You know, that is again, that's just a car rig. That a grip would do. So and you would just say, this is where I want the camera. As long as you can say, I want the camera here, they will go, okay, cool. Or they will say, actually, you can't rig it there. What about here? And you go, great.
Give the options.
As long as you're just very clear with people and you know what you want, and that's all anybody really wants, is just to be directed.
Yeah,
you know, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's the same with directors and DPs. Like, the director doesn't really know what they want. Sometimes you have to make a lot of suggestions as a DP, but I think most people quite like being sort of, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it, kind of thing. You know.
Yeah, great. So we're going to also play one more video, which is the commercial that you did for Vodafone.
Oh yeah,
and that was the one with Mo Salah in it. So we'll quickly just play that. I want to first actually ask, maybe getting the at what stage was this in your career, and in terms of like getting this job and getting the treatment, what was that like?
That's a good question. I think I shot this maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember now, but it was just it was a director from, I want to say, Portugal or Spain, I can't remember, and he was coming to the UK to shoot this commercial, and it was just one of those treatments that when you get to a certain point in your career, you will get offered stuff with people you've never worked with before because they like what you've shot or whatever.
Yeah.
That was just how this happened, really. And it was a really cool treatment. I was like, this is great. Yeah. Like, I hope I end up shooting this, you know, like.
There was a mixture of, obviously, animation in this. How was that? Like, did you, do your piece like animation as well?
Yeah, they absolutely do. I mean, but not on this, no. I mean, they kind of knew what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a transition from live action to animation, so they kind of continued on the lighting a little bit here.
Yeah.
But, you need to know, the questions I would be asking are, what is how are you lighting the animation? What's it going to look like, so that I don't light it incorrectly before, That's the worst thing, is when you're doing a green screen shoot or something and they haven't actually picked the background. That's when you're in trouble. Because then they'll be like, why don't the Russians look like he's there? And it's like, because, well,
no one knew. We didn't know.
I didn't know what the background was.
And how was it working with a star like Mo Salah?
He was great. Yeah, he was lovely. Yeah. I had to run after him a few times, and I was kind of out of shape when I did this one as well, a little bit, and but it was really funny. I mean, I cracked a few jokes about being a fat guy with a camera running after Mo Salah is not the best look, but yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, it was good.
Fantastic. On that note as well, do you have any advice that you could share with any sort of aspiring cinematographers looking to get into the industry? Yeah,
absolutely. Just shoot. Yeah, just find stuff, projects, make your own projects. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
How do you deal with your mental health? Obviously, your journey's been, quite the journey. You moved on quite a lot. You lost your parents as well in the middle of your career as well.
Was it comparison is a thief of joy, right? So I think just concentrate on yourself. Try not to worry too much about what everybody else is doing. I mean, you will. I do still now, even, but I try not to. Because that's like the most demoralizing thing is. If you're comparing yourself to so-and-so or whoever is starting out and they're doing really well and you're not doing so, that can just really hurt. Yeah. So just don't, flip it around and be really happy for other people having success instead. I find it is a really good technique.
Yeah.
And just kind of just keep your head down and keep going, and keep working. And especially now when it's really, it's people are suffering quite a lot in the film industry. I think you just gotta, you didn't get into filmmaking because you wanted to make loads of money, let's say. That will come if you just stick it out and you just kind of just keep holding on, even if you have to kind of like, kind of go away and come back, because of financials or whatever. You just got to keep coming back and keep pushing, because it will work out and you will have good times, but it's you just got to stick it out, really.
Right. Yeah. That's really, really good advice there, because it is a marathon, not a sprint. At the end of
Absolutely.
Say.
Yeah. I mean, I hope to be making films when I'm 80. So
wow,
we'll see.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Great. So we're going to move on to the final segment of the podcast, which is the game segment.
Oh God, yeah. You didn't warn me about this.
I did warn you about this. Yeah. So the idea of this game is that we're going to play 5 blood clips from films, TVs that are quite. Film TV shows that are in popular culture, and you have to guess it purely from the audio only. Okay. So there's been quite a mixture
from the audio.
From the audio only.
Oh crap.
So there's been quite a mixture of how people performed.
I was like visuals, yeah. All right, fine. Audio.
It's all blurred.
Okay, all right, let's do it.
Let's play our first clip, please.
I'll answer the question. You want
A Few Good Men.
Instantly, straight away.
You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth, exactly. You got that. 1 out of 5 instantly. So you're off to a good start.
Yeah.
The worst person that we've had has scored 1 out of 5. So let's hope it's not downhill.
Oh God.
Downhill from here.
Well, at least I'm on a par. Thank God for that.
Well, I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown.
Goodfellas, come on.
Come on, I should have made it a lot harder for you, isn't it? You did.
Yeah.
You
Let's
did
just
your
keep doing
research.
it.
2 out of 5.
Goodfellas, that's
Goodfellas,
easy.
yeah.
That's an easy one. You gotta pick some,
You just
I don't
recognise
know,
the voice
Francois
instantly.
Truffaut stuff or something.
Wanna play games? Okay. I'll play with you. Come on. Okay. Do you wanna play rough?
Oh, Scarface.
I think I made this a little bit too easy for David, didn't I? Yeah.
I love films. Oh, Scarface. I nearly went for Heat for a second because I could hear the guns clicking.
Yeah.
You want to play rough?
Yeah. You knew it. All right, the 4th clip now.
Comes at me with the knife.
Oh, come on.
Why?
Yeah, Dark Knight. It's too easy. Pick a hard one.
He even knows the whole lines and everything. Yeah. Brilliant. So you're at 4 out of 5 already. Jeez.
Yes.
You might go for the win. 5 out of 5.
At band camp, we weren't supposed
Oh,
to have
come on, American Pie.
Ah.
These are too easy. Afterwards, can I do a few more? Just when we... It's just a fun game. One time at band camp, I had such a crush on her though.
Oh my God, yeah. She did so many different things, like How I Met Your Mother as well. Yeah.
Oh, honestly, but for Buffy for me.
Yeah.
I lose a big Buffy vampire fan. Yeah, love Buffy.
Brilliant. Well done, David. You scored 5 out of 5. So currently our winner. No one scored.
Do I get to come back or win an award?
We'll definitely need to get you on because I think there's so much that we didn't get to cover on this episode. Obviously, ran out of that time a little bit, but you've been a great guest so far.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been fun.
Do we have anything that we can expect from David? Anything you're working on that we can look out for?
Well, I was talking about doing another film, but it got pushed back. I guess Two Neighbours, when that comes out, will be quite interested for people to see that. I think that's going to be fun. And then I actually did some sort of bit of cinematography, but also mainly operating on an action film with I've forgotten completely blanked on the names. I did so good on the game. Now, can't even remember the people that I worked with for 5 months. The Oscar, Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx. Okay. They'd done a action comedy film, which was great for, I really enjoyed. I mean, it was stressful as hell. I wasn't I only DP'd a lot. I think I did 15 days on that as a splinter DP. Yeah. But it was kind of more for the experience and that. But I mean, being a camera operator is so stressful.
Well, I'm guessing that's tiresome as well.
Oh, you're in the middle of a director, a DP, and a camera operator, and you're just there, and you're cool. Where am I going to fit in most of the time?
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to seeing it because it was good fun.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. So, any of our listeners, any of our viewers want to find you, where can they?
Oh yeah, so Instagram's a good one. David Wright, DOP. That's probably the best one. I mean, I do have a website, but Instagram seems to be the focal point, the lightning rod for everything, right, these days. So but it's been really fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, likewise, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been great to have you, David.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah.
Thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this content, then make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the official London Podcast Studios channel. If you want to join the creative community and find out how you can get the picture, then make sure to click the link in the description.